Hi, Tom.
Hi, Virginia. Here we are again. Another morning.
So there's a new saying that a fella at the conference we were at mentioned, and it was called FOSU, FOSU, fear of
Yeah.
screwing up.
Instead of
think a lot of
FOMO.
Yeah, instead of FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
who was
new
it that
thing.
said that again? West
It was
there?
it was Grant Williams. If you haven't listened to Grant Williams, he's a very smart, very sane speaker on just general economics and finance. Yeah, he came up with this expression. Like a lot of people, fear of missing out's been a big thing, especially in real estate and stuff recently. And he said there's a new one. It's the fear of screwing up, because so many of the big players are talking and they're sitting on cash on the sidelines waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so even the most financially intelligent among us are confused and are waiting to see, and paying a big cost for that too, because inflation being as high as it is, when you're sitting on cash like they are, that cash is purchasing power is being eroded away. So what does that suggest about the mental state of the average, not the average investor, but the higher level investors, those who know what's going on, or know more of what's going on, so to speak? I don't think anybody
Yeah.
knows what's going on, but
Yeah, and the fact that they're not sure, makes the average guy not sure either. So we feel like there's probably a lot of people just sitting on the fence with all their money, and they're just not sure what to do, where to go, which direction. It's almost like a calm before the storm that's going on,
yeah. And just, we talk to people at our window all day, and the general public sentiment, I try to pay attention to
Yeah.
what that sounds like. And you start to see patterns in things people are talking about. And yeah, it just seems like a lot of people are confused, not sure what to do next. And the
Mhm.
conversations they're having with me seem to be along that line too. It's people are freaked out about what's happening.
Mhm. Mhm. So let's talk about how gold and silver can help them have some relief for all that anxiety and tension. I just feel it, like Rick Rule says, it makes me sleep at night having my own gold and silver under my pillow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's that to invest in, but
historically, gold and silver have been great emergency money. It just because due to the nature of gold and silver, it's something you hold. It's readily available. It's in your hand. The only way someone can remove it from you, they can't tax it away from you. They have to take it, right? So
Mhm.
it's a unique. It serves a unique role in the grand spectrum of your finances. And I'll always be the first to say it's not the solution to everything. Nothing is. No one asset is a solution to everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it is part, in my opinion, of a greater mix of assets. And frankly, it's been um, underreported on, or underutilized, or underloved for many years. And I think it's time that it is becoming a lot more loved. A lot of people are buying it. And I think we need more people to join that fray, to be honest with you. I think the more people, without explaining why, I think the more people that own precious metals, uh, the better off we'll be, for a number of reasons.
And it's just a small percentage of us that own metals.
Yeah, 1 in 200 right now. That has to change. And I think part of the reason is, I keep going back to this advertisement I put out. It's a 5-minute and 19-second advertisement that starts with, a lot of people struggle with the idea of buying. I never intended to put it out as an ad. It was more just to be a video to try to help people understand their own psychology around this. Because
Yeah.
if you can go inside and understand yourself, what's holding you back, or preventing or creating barriers, is if you can get past all that stuff, you make better decisions. And the whole point of that talk was to get people past this. Where am I alluding to? All this confusion. The only time there's confusion is when you don't have answers. So the key is to keep seeking answers. That's what confusion is for, in my opinion. It's forcing you to question. And and seek answers. And the reason I think more people should own silver and gold is that we're going to have a more intelligent population of people with finance, because again, it goes back to this. Nobody can advise you. I did a video on that. We can't advise you. We can only talk and tell stories and all that. And you got to kind of divine all of that and figure out how that fits in your life.
Yeah.
And as I said it's tough for people to do because they haven't done it, and we need to do more of it. We need a more advanced, more intelligent population in terms of money and finance, period.
Sure, for sure. So when GameStop happened, everybody rushed into the market, the stock market, and there was so many ads on YouTube. Hey, here's how you do it. Follow me. I'll show you how. And people were just getting right into it. And, what are you really getting into? Do you understand it? Because really what this means is we need to take a responsibility for our own investments versus chips on the table.
Yeah.
It's like a gambling casino, what you guys, a lot of you are doing, instead of really taking responsibility, understanding what you're investing in.
Yeah. And that's another issue is people just, following each other because that's the way the crowd is going. And I thought that whole scenario was fascinating, and the idea behind it. I mean, at least it's a group of people trying to fight back a little bit, to give the system a bit of a sting. But as you can see, the system just sloughs it off by, well, what happened with the one company that lost a pile of money? They just basically got reimbursed and bailed out because of this anomaly. But at least that's showing some financial intelligence. I just think it's misdirected. You should be directing that financial intelligence toward your own scenario, your own family scenario, your own community scenario, really. But it's more evidence of people are, they like short-term solutions to things. Quick, let's just get a lot of money so we can feel better about having a lot of money, and with no goal or purpose in mind. Not the best way to approach solutions. I mean, we live in a very short-term solution world now, and the counter to that is obviously the opposite, which is planning. Again, back to what I said about fear and concern. If you look forward, you have concern. If it's imminent, it's fear.
Yeah. So if you want to avoid FOSU, investigate more about what you're investing in. Learn about it. We get people running through the door. I want some silver because everybody else is doing it. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. But do you understand what you're doing? Do you understand what you're buying? Take some time, learn about it. Really learn about it. It's fascinating, number one.
It actually is.
History.
It's not boring at all when you start to learn about it. I've had a few friends that I've introduced to the subject, and once they actually took an active interest in it, they're coming back to me telling me stuff, and I'm, yeah, I know, yeah, you read that part too, did you? And that is to me is what it's all about. It's like I said in the video, is in that ad, I which was not supposed to be an ad, really in earnest was trying to get people to understand that. And one of the things I said in the end of it was just buy some, which sounds kind of like, oh yeah, sure, just go ahead and just buy some silver. But it's not like you have to make a huge commitment to it. And I just find, and James Lavish, there's a guy, another guy, I think he was an ex-hockey player, and he's a real Bitcoin advocate. And he was saying the other day, he's calling it legging into a trade. Just buy a little bit, because until you do, you won't actually take the time to investigate and understand it. Once you've committed a bit of your capital to it, now, there's that fear of loss, which motivates people to dig in a little harder, right? And this is what we all need to do, because again, right, circling back, if you don't take charge of your own finances, you're going to have to be subject to the whims of others. And I mean, plaques on the wall and degrees don't mean anything to me. I don't know if they do to you, but like I've always said, we have to get past being so polite. We don't ask for, like, what have you done? What's your performance track record? We don't ask those questions of financial professionals. We just take it passively, whatever they tell us. And it puts you in a victim stance, really, in many regards.
And this is really the only asset you can take home and put under your pillow, kind of thing.
Yeah, I know we've threatened to, go down the list of the various different qualities of gold and silver as an asset. I mean, number one, my first reason for owning it is it's a way of savings. It puts your
Yeah.
cash at an arm's length where you can't just grab it and spend it. We're all subject to that.
Mhm.
We're all consumers, whether you want to believe it or not, or think you have a tight rein of control on your world. I don't know. I just look at the amount of storage facilities we have with the overflow of people's homes. We're
Yeah.
way over the line with consumerism, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And so, what are the other benefits of gold and silver? Liquidity. That's another really important one. The fact that you don't have to ask anybody for permission, privacy. You don't have to ask for anybody for permission to do a transaction in it. It's yours. You want to do a transaction, you do it. No, nothing to sign, no official people to talk to. So wouldn't you want to have an asset that has those qualities in the mix of other assets you have? I mean, to me,
Sure.
yeah, no, because every asset has, we could talk about the negatives of gold and silver too, but they're fairly obvious. But every asset has negatives and positives. And so that being the case, shouldn't we spread our negatives and positives around a little bit so that when a scenario comes up, we can say, hey, well, the proper, tool for that is the Robertson screwdriver, not the Phillips in this case, in terms of finance, right?
Yeah.
And it's just something people don't consider, I find.
Yeah. And for anybody listening, you can come down and buy one small coin. People think you have to buy thousands of dollars worth of silver or gold. No, you can come and buy one coin, take it home, feel it, and start investigating about it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Anything.
I've had people come in and they see a tube of maple sitting on the counter and they go, do I have to buy the whole tube or can I just buy one or two?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you got to buy the whole tube. Should start doing that. No, just kidding. Obviously, but it's funny. People actually ask those kind of questions. So, yeah, start there. Start with understanding the basics. That's the other thing is people get into studying finance and they come in and they're listening to stuff that's way above their pay grade or what's necessary to run their own financial world. I say stick with the rudiments and the basics. And in the videos I do in Card Drives, I try to just give people little bits and snippets of tools and things to think about so that they can come to their own conclusions. Like I did one about how to use a calculator to simple calculator, not a financial calculator, to calculate compound interest. Because anything that compounds in your life that's going to run away, and that's a hard thing for the average person to get their head around, or people in general have a hard time with exponents. So being able to do that and calculate where you're going financially with something that's exponential, like your mortgage with the interest rate, or whether or not an investment's going to double over time, that's a useful tool to do that. And those things there's a ton of those different things and things you need to understand in order to have a good handle on particularly inflation and how inflation affects you. That's a very complex thing, and I talk about it a lot in value. And yeah, it's back to that. It's back to just telling people, urging people and to take the bull by the horns themselves and really understand more of this stuff instead of being resistant to it.
Resistant or jumping into things that you know nothing about. And now what have you got yourself into?
Yeah, bandwagoning, right? I mean, we get some of that with the silver and gold community. Like I said before, there's plenty of good reasons to buy silver and gold, probably more good reasons to buy it than the poorly thought out reasons that I see some people doing it. So, still buy it, but adjust your reasoning. And part of that comes down to education, even if it's done after the fact. Like I say, you don't have to commit to thousands and thousands of dollars to have an education. You can buy a little bit, and that whatever the commitment level you would need in order to cause you to say, I don't want to risk losing what I put in, so I'm going to do some work to understand what I've just done. The worst thing that can happen is you can say, look, this isn't for me, which I doubt is ever going to happen, but you could say this isn't for me and sell it back at a very minimal loss. And you would have learned something. At least you would have learned something. Sometimes the best thing we can do is learn not to go down that path.
Yeah. So I've had a fella come in and cash in all his gold because he's following the new trend of Elon Musk's whatever he's got going, and it's like but he really doesn't understand either the metals or Elon Musk's gig,
Right.
whatever he's got. So there's an example of, FOMO in action, fear of missing out, and fear of screwing up. That's taking responsibility. It's actually good to have a fear of screwing up. You want to have a fear of screwing up. You want to learn and know what you're doing.
Yeah,
So
that's
instead
good,
of FOMO
good point.
mania, how about the FOSU? You should be afraid of screwing up.
Yeah, I never considered that when we started this conversation. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, fear shouldn't control you. It should alert you, right?
Sure.
There's that noise again. During precious metals. I'm good. Yourself? We're not in the middle. We're not in the mood for any sales stuff right now. We're kind of in the middle of doing a video, so I'll have to let you go. Thanks. Yeah, another sales call. Where were we? We were talking about FOSU again, yeah, and why it's important to, yeah, fear of screwing up. You should be concerned, not afraid. Wrong word, but it sounds better. Concern of screwing up doesn't fit into an acronym as well. COSU, concern of screwing up. FOSU sounds better. Yeah, it really comes down to the individual. I say it all the time. In terms of finance, we need in general, we need a smarter population so we can stop relying on so-called experts. You have to be your own expert.
Yeah.
And there isn't that much to know, really. I mean, there's more than we do know, but there isn't that much to know. The fundamentals are the most important thing because they're the building blocks of everything. All right.
Look up the history of what you're investing in. Look up the history of gold and silver. There's lots on the history, fascinating stuff about the history, and it goes way, way, way back.
Yeah, and back to what you'd said about that fellow that came in and sold his metals to invest in this Elon Musk thing. I mean, whether or not, the Elon Musk thing is it good or bad, I'm not making a judgment call on it because I don't know what it is. But I can only imagine that, well, just the fact that, I was doing this and then suddenly I made this change. It just shows a lack of forward planning, in my opinion. Yeah. Got somebody at the door here. I'll be right back. Well, we'll see if we have to edit that out. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just normal business every day. Hi, Truman.
I think we could, right?
But pardon me?
We could probably wrap it up at this point. FOSU. Just know what you're doing.
Yeah, just know what you're doing. Know
what you're doing.
Be responsible. Know what you're getting into. Yep.
Investigate before you invest. Yeah,
even minimal. It just saddens me when people jump on bandwagons that, this is the newest, hottest thing that I'm. The whole purpose of, to me, and the whole purpose of precious metals is more long-term thinking. Could there be a short-term play in precious metals? Yeah, obviously there could be, but it isn't your best route. That's something I'll stand firmly on, and often say to people that, physical precious metals, short-term speculation, not a good idea. I mean, premiums will get in your way every time, and it's really not the domain of the industry. It's really not what it was intended for. And so that begs the question, what was it intended for? And that's the whole point of this conversation, is that's what you got to figure out. How does this really fit into your world or into the world in general? That's the big question. And without people to give you absolute do this type advice, you're kind of on your own to a degree. The good news is it isn't as complicated as we make it sound. It's actually very simple. Once you kind of get it, you'll never unget it. I think we can end on that note, unget it, if that's a word. Have a great day, folks. Thanks for listening.